tomorrow's gonna be a new day. I'm still the mother sheriff, and when I'll go up there and fire my goddamn them black bastards. They think I'm scared. That's stupid. Every black that I know, you need to find him to start with. He's a snake.
So that was leaked audio from Sheriff in Columbus, North Carolina, Jodi Greene, caught saying very racist things on a recording. And the recording was made by Jason Souls. He was a captain under Greene at the time. Now, before we get into this further, let's get into some backstory about the sheriff in this situation. So court documents reveal that District Attorney John David had obtained an audio recording from the State Bureau of Investigation of a phone call Greene was on. The court documents, a petition to remove Greene from office, say that Greene made the comments while he was suspended from office as the State Board of Elections investigated his residency status. According to those documents, Greene was convinced there was a leak in his office that resulted in the investigation and was heavily focused on Lewis Hatcher, the county's first black sheriff, and Melvin Campbell, a black sergeant, as well as other black employees whom he felt undermined him. Some more on the investigation. Souls recorded the call between him and Greene 2 months after Greene defeated Lewis Hatcher in the 2018 election by just 34 votes. The election results were partly protested on concerns that Greene did not actually live in Columbus County as required by North Carolina's law. He was also improperly sworn in before the state certified the election results. So this recording was released in late September of last year. Now that we have that settled, let's talk about what's transpired in the past 2 weeks. So the North Carolina sheriff who disparaged black employees resigns. Greene resigns, he's gone, right? Think again. The North Carolina sheriff reelected 2 weeks after resigning over racist comments. Reelected? How is this possible? There's another element to this story, his opponent in this election. Let's get into those details. Unofficial election results for the county show that Greene garnered more than 10,000 votes to be reelected as sheriff, compared to the fewer 8,500 secured by his opponent, Jason Souls. There's that guy again. So the voters decided that the man who exposed Greene as a racist was better fit for sheriff than the man who made the racist comments. Makes a lot of sense. So Greene tried to play it off with some lip service. He said, "I'm so honored for your vote of confidence in me and the staff at the sheriff's office. I promise we will not let you down. I am a sheriff for everyone, no matter race, color, religion, sexual orientation, or national origin." I would say that this is BS and just another example of racism in law enforcement and the fact that so many cops don't live where they are serving. You've got to love the community you want to serve if you're going to protect it, and that's why we keep us safe. Cops don't keep us safe. So let's look at this headline from the middle of the summer. Prevalence of white supremacists in law enforcement demands drastic change. Analysis found that some of the instructional information presented by police trainers was explicitly racist, and that some instructors endorsed and interacted with white supremacist criminal groups such as the Proud Boys. The analysis by Reuters found at least 15 self-identified law enforcement trainers and dozens of retired instructors listed in a database of members of the Oath Keepers, one of the several violent anti-government groups that led the insurrection at the US Capitol on January 6, 2021. So Germany is a country that has a history of fascism. And when they found one group chat of some officers in a division, spreading some fascist sentiments, they fired everyone in that division. We need to be as serious about the rise of fascism in the United States, especially in law enforcement. And this guy's gonna be the sheriff again. Rayyvana?
Yeah, as the saying goes, some of those that work forces. But I do like that he made this equal opportunity statement about being the sheriff. He was like, "I'm the sheriff for everybody, regardless of race, gender identity, sexuality, whatever." Like, oh, come on, man. We heard the recordings of you. But I do want to say, we heard recordings and audio of him being explicitly racist to people who work for him, black people who are part of this systemically racist institution. you can't even begin to imagine how he's treated Black people who live under his jurisdiction, Black people who are arrested while he was the sheriff. If this is how he's willing to treat people who work, Black people who work within his own police or sheriff's department, that just begs the question, how horrifically was he treating Black people who live in the community that he's supposed to serve and protect, when we can plainly see that all he was meant to serve and protect were his own interests. So I think that there's a larger issue here. Every arrest of a Black person, every arrest that led to a prosecution of a Black person, the treating of Black people within his community by his department needs to be investigated. Because again, if that's the way he's willing to treat his own employees who are Black, he must be willing to treat the Black people who live in that community much, much worse. So there should be a magnifying glass on his actions towards Black people within that community as sheriff.
I really love that we're bringing in the Rage Against the Machine. The same network forces burn crosses. Couldn't be more true. And in LA, like, we have had police officers from the South come to Los Angeles to work here and train people up on their methods of racialized policing. It's just disgusting, the state of police in America. And I know there's a lot of people that are like, hey, defund the police isn't very popular. My uncle's a cop, what have you. But in Los Angeles, we had someone run with billboards showing the police budget of $3.2 billion compared to housing and youth development. And this was a compelling message. Kenneth Mejia won with 60% of the votes. So when you really break this down for people and you're like, how safe do the police make us? Should we invest in something else maybe? Do you feel safe calling 911? When you have that conversation and you talk about better spending for public dollars, people are pretty fed up with how the police are operating in the United States. There's a lot that's got to change. And the fact that this guy got more votes than the person who exposed him for being a racist is insane. That means there's a significant amount, 10,000 people in this North Carolina county that were like, that's our guy. That's sad as well. Any last thoughts on this?
Yeah, just touching on the idea that like it's good policy to like run on tough on crime. The reason that the Democrats are probably going to lose the House in this election is because of Democrats in New York, like Sean Patrick Maloney, who ran a tough on crime campaign and lost their elections, and are pivoting to blaming the progressives, despite the fact that the progressives all won their races and weren't running on tough on crime stances. And like you mentioned in California, literally displaying the overinflated police budget and destroying his opponent in that election. So, I think that the establishment Democrats need to take a hard look at what wins campaigns, and it's not licking the boots of the police. It isn't. Thank
you. Yeah, tough on crime is not a winning campaign platform at all. And I just want to mention, a lot of people look at crime statistics. Crime statistics only exist if the police are there arresting people. Guess what? If there's not a police officer in a neighborhood over policing and targeting Black communities, there's no crimes being committed because there's no crime data being recorded. We know that police officers stop and harass people and then end up arresting them for resisting arrest when they initially did nothing wrong for the police officer to approach them. And that's a recorded incidence of crime. We need to really interrogate where crime data comes from, because if there's no police officers over policing those neighborhoods, there's no crime being recorded, and suddenly crime is down. They're also inflating those statistics there.